Hi guys, welcome to Petrolped. So today we're going to take a look at heel and towing. This is a driving technique that I can remember when I was really tiny, watching the kind of motorsport as a kid, watching the rally driving and stuff, and you'd see the videos of the drivers' feet on the pedals dancing from pedal to pedal, and I can just remember thinking, I've got to learn how to do that. And the first thing I did when I got my first car was give it a go. So it's a great technique. It's quite difficult to master, so I thought it might be useful to do a video on why you do it, how you do it, and then maybe sort of take a look at it being done. So let's give it a go. Okay, so let's have a chat about heel towing. First things first though, the weather outside today is absolutely shocking. Horrible rain and wind, rubbish for making video. So I've brought the car into the barn. I've been able to drop the roof down to give me a bit of better light. So let's have a chat about heel towing. So what is it and why would you do it? Well, firstly, heel towing is a braking technique to enhance your braking coming into corners, used by racing drivers with a manual gearbox. If you've got an automatic car or a car with flappy paddles, then most cars nowadays will do that for you. But if you've got a manual gearbox, unless you've got something really cool like the new Cayman GT4 that auto blips for you, you're going to have to do it yourself. So why would you do it? So if we just think about what's happening as we're coming into a corner, let's say we're coming into a corner in fourth gear, we need to decelerate into that corner, and we're going to make use of engine braking. So we're going to decelerate from fourth, we're going to change into third gear. So I'm going to push the clutch down, and at that point I'm going to start to try and engage third gear. But as I push the clutch down, the engine and the transmission are moving at the same speed. But as I engage the new gear, third gear, the engine's still going to be spinning at the same speed, but the transmission will be spinning at a faster speed because it's a lower gear. So what happens when you lift the clutch and engage the drive, then the two things have to catch up with each other, and that will happen. And you know, I'm sure most of you have changed down and used that, but it can be a bit clunky. It can be a bit you know, it's not so smooth. So the idea about heel towing is that, again, we're coming into the corner in fourth gear, we depress the clutch, we go from fourth into third, but at this point now I'm going to blip the throttle. I'm basically going to push down on the throttle, and that will rev the engine and increase the engine revs, and the difference could be maybe as much as 1500 RPM. It depends on the car, obviously, but let's say blip the throttle by sort of increase the engine revs by about 1500 RPM, and then when I'm in third and I lift the clutch to engage the clutch, the engine and the transmission are going to be spinning at approximately the same speed, and they'll mate together more smoothly, and the change will be a smoother change. And that basically means two things. One, I'm going to be less likely to make the car unstable as I'm braking, especially if I'm braking aggressively and changing down aggressively. But also it means that I'm probably going to be able to engage the lower gear a little bit earlier, and it's just a great technique to use to smooth that deceleration phase into a corner. Especially if you've got a lightweight sports car, rear-wheel drive sports car. I used to use this a lot in my Caterham, especially in the wet. It just kind of stopped the car going unstable. So in essence, that is why you heel tow. So I guess the next question is, how do you heel tow? So let's take a look at the pedal box of my Mini then. And one of the things I love about this car so much is the positioning of the pedals. Clearly it's a manual car. We've got a footrest all the way on the left-hand side. We've got my clutch pedal, my brake pedal, and then my throttle. The most important thing though is this distance here, the distance between the brake pedal and the throttle, and also the positioning in terms of how far up the brake pedal is. Because if you think about what we've just been talking about, heel towing and what we would do, as I'm braking into a corner, I actually have to be braking with the middle pedal, I have to be engaging the clutch with the left pedal, and I have to be blipping the throttle. And unless I'm Jake the Peg with an extra leg, I'm going to have to do something clever. So what I'm going to do in heel towing is I'm going to use my right foot to engage both the brake and blip the throttle at the same time. So let's have a look at how that might work. Okay, so let's start with a comparison between the normal braking technique and heel and towing. So normally then I'd be on the throttle, coming into a corner, I'd lift off the throttle, come onto the brake, start braking, I'd then depress the clutch, select the lower gear, raise the clutch back up, come off the brake, on the throttle and drive away. So the difference now with heel and towing is, so if we come into the corner, as I come off of the throttle, I'm going to start my braking, but I also need to be blipping my throttle. And the way I do it is I use the left hand side of my foot for the brake pedal and the right hand side of my foot to roll over onto the throttle pedal like that. And I guess the name heel and towing, you would be forgiven. I mean, there's a number of different techniques I could, it depends on how flexible I am, roll my foot over a little bit more, so I get the sort of the lower part of my foot stroke heel coming onto there. But in essence, I've got to press those two pedals at the same time and just roll over like that. So what that would look like if I was coming into a corner, I'd come off the throttle, go onto the brake, start my braking, depress the clutch, and as the clutch goes down, while I'm still putting force through the brake pedal, I roll my foot over, blip the engine, and while the engine revs are still high, bring the clutch back up and carry on. So I'm still braking, now go into a lower gear, go in, down, select the new low gear, flip the throttle, come back up, foot back on the rest. Come out of the corner, accelerate away. Now what's really, really important with this, and I'm going to put some disclaimers down here, is you must practice this in a safe environment like I am now, with the car switched off at home. You know, just sort of practice playing between the brake and the throttle, and just get hang of it before you go out on the road. Because the big danger here, and you don't have to be a genius to work it out, is you're coming into a corner, you're braking, and one of two things could happen. Your foot slips off of the brake, so you obviously lose the braking force. Worst case, it slips off the brake and goes onto the throttle, so you put some throttle on and you accelerate into a corner. So it's a technique to be used. You kind of have to slowly brake yourself into it. What I would say is it may well be that your car's pedals just aren't set up in a way that allows you to heel toe very well. If I think back to the different cars I've had, the manual ones obviously, this car's brilliant for heel towing. My Audi TT-S wasn't so good. The throttle and brake spacing was just a little bit too far. I had on a Honda S2000, brilliant. Caterham was absolutely fantastic. So it really does depend on the spacing of your pedals. And the other thing, it really depends on what footwear you're wearing as well. So you know, that's something to bear in mind. But you must practice this in a safe environment when the car's stationary, just to get the feel, the play between your brake foot and your throttle. Let's have a look at on the road and see what that looks like as we're going along. So there you go. So that's heel and towing. Hopefully you found this video useful. Give it a go. Please emphasize though, please do it safely first. Practice at home when your car's stationary before you go out on the road. It is a useful technique, but it does take a little bit of time to get the hang of. But maybe you'll look at your pedal box in your manual car a little bit differently from now on. So please put any comments in the box below. Give me a thumbs up. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrolped. We've got some great content coming up. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Take care. Goodbye.